It is the sounds of Mam Sibongile Khumalo. This is how we open up the show today. And that song is, of course, My Hlome. We are still in full swing celebration of our 90th years of conversation, nation's story, and our shared future as we celebrate SAfm's 90th birthday. And of course, today we do it once again with a special guest who is coming to us remotely from Cape Town. With 2 decades of leading the conversation. Nancy Richards, well over, in fact. Nancy Richards is going to be joining us in a moment. She is an independent print and radio journalist, a podcast host, a media trainer, and an author. As we celebrate 90 years of SAfm, and we opened with Mam Sibongile on request from Nancy, and this is your special song, or one of your special songs. How are you doing this afternoon, Nancy?
Oh my goodness. Bridget, I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm getting a big reverberation in my ears.
Apologies.
So let's see if we can let's get the tech sorted.
Hopefully we can get the tech sorted. Kind of an interesting dynamic with you in Cape Town, me in Johannesburg, from a remote location, not necessarily in our studio base. But let's see. We'll endeavor to do the best that we can. But yeah, are you good? All right, let's take a quick pause. I can hear you. I can hear you just perfectly fine. But let's take a quick pause, and then we'll come back on the other side. Maybe they'll be able to do something about something. All right, let's... Who's in studio?
Get to Dis-Chem for better deals and better savings on everything you need. Look out for the yellow label to enjoy bulk savings on Better Rewards brands. Swipe your Bet Rewards card to get 2+1 cheapest free when you buy any Nutriderma face care products. Plus, get 2+1 cheapest free on any Rimmel products. Offers valid until 13 September, only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Your geyser would have hot water, but some people overloaded the transformer with their illegal connections. You're late again, and the robots don't work. Some people vandalized it for copper. The whole community doesn't have electricity because some people have been bridging meters for a small fee, and now the transformer has exploded due to overloading. Don't allow illegal connections by criminals to inconvenience you and your community. Report criminals to ESCOM on 0800 11 2722 or the SAPS. Save your transformer. Save lives.
At the current rate that unemployment is increasing, and parallel to that, we have more and more graduates also graduating, but we have no way to fit the graduates. We have no way, you know why? Because the focus is on school and graduating, but there isn't, especially in the business sector, there isn't any growth and there isn't any injection from the government to say, hey, let's rather expand sectors so that we can handle the capacity.
The Central African Republic gained independence in 1960, a country rich in resources yet deeply affected by instability. Agriculture and mining support the economy, but decades of conflict, political unrest, and humanitarian crisis have shaped daily life.
This is what we are becoming. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. In case you missed it,
in 2002, 2003, he took out the lyrics of the song and he made us write poems from
Sounds familiar, eh?
Today I'm grateful because we didn't commit crime, we were not stealing, we were just good kids that were listening to reggae but not knowing that we were learning something to stay away from trouble.
That is amazing, Sapi. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing so much.
And also, Sapi, just before you go, this is a wild stab in the dark, right? And he used to speak quite slowly because he used to smoke the herb, didn't he? Was he smoking the herb?
He was.
that was the Alternative Breakfast. Bridget Masinga is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
Myself, Bridget Masinga, on this fine, where are we, on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Let's catch up with Sibahle Mota, who's out for day 167 at the Madlanga Commission. How are you doing this afternoon, Sibahle?
Good afternoon to you, Bridget, and thank you so much for having me.
Listen, always a pleasure. Let's get on with recapping day 167 at the Madlanga Commission. Unfortunately, today is one of those days where I think I only got a glimpse of probably a total of 10 minutes. So how did the day begin?
Yes, so we started the day with the evidence of Vusumuzi Matlala and him not wanting to really respond to questions relating to General Lesetja Sinona, and again invoking his right against self-incrimination. But what we actually saw is the commissioners as well as the evidence leader saying that it is in his best interest to answer questions relating to his relationship with, Sinona, and also it would be difficult for the commission to only take other people's side and not have the side of the story told before the commission. So ultimately now, what we are getting at is his very close link with General Lesetja Sinona, and ultimately, them sharing documents relating to that disbandment of the PKTT in 2024. But what is, quite evidence before the commission and in Matlala's testimony is the fact that General Lesetja Sinona used his position to sort of benefit Vusumuzi Matlala in other things, because even when his home and his business was raided in December 2024, we saw how Lesetja Sinona actually tried to somehow help Matlala to find out if it was actually the PKTT who had raided his premises.
Yeah, I caught that particular segment. In fact, I think my 10 minutes was slap bam in the middle of that line of questioning. It's always interesting also that on every day that Vusumuzi Matlala is sitting in front of the commissioners, every day there needs to be this sort of lengthy explanation around the privilege of invoking his right not to self-incriminate. Once again today, that being a subject of conversation with him and Justice Baloy around how and when he should invoke his right not to self-incriminate. Because once again, he really did not want to engage the conversation of General Sinona at all.
No, definitely. And I think, the case of General Liseja Sinona ultimately leads the commission closer to finding why this PKT was actually disbanded, right? And remember that disbandment of the PKTT is also the alleged link between Matlala and Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. And ultimately what we are finding is the fact that Brown Mokhotsi, the alleged political fixer, is the one who sent Matlala the letter of the disbandment. And ultimately we are also seeing where Advocate Adila has also arguing that Sinona is also the one who sent Matlala the disbandment letter, but there seems to be a bit of confusion if it was actually Matlala or Sinona, because ultimately what Matlala says is that he sent it to Sinona. So I think by the virtue of that fact, it somehow exposes that link to say what was the motive behind this disbandment of the PKTT, and ultimately how General Liseja Sinona may have attempted to help Matlala in getting to the bottom of the facts. And even at some point, a WhatsApp conversation that was beamed at the Matlanga Commission shows that Sinona, who's a senior police official or was a senior police official, actually encouraging Matlala to take on the South African Police Service in his cancelled Medicare 24 tender, or his invoice is not being paid. So obviously what it shows is that there was some benefit, and it seems like General Liseja Sinona may have improperly used his position to somehow benefit Vusmuzi Matlala.
It's really, I think it's getting to the crux of the matter now. And it's a good thing you paint us that picture, because once again, I wasn't in a position of privilege to follow today's proceedings. I just found it strange that, whenever someone skirts answering whether, Bridget, how do you know Sbahle? And, how would you categorize that relationship with Usbahle? So you and Usbahle were about to buy an apartment together. So, what does that infer about your relationship? But when you start trying to make it seem like the person and yourself are really not that close, even though you were having close dealings that spoke to the millions of rands that were being entrusted between the two of you in partnership and in deals and exchanges, obviously that says the contrary, that your relationship really was that close. And I guess what you point out about how all of that becomes central in the communique around the PKTT then makes sense that he would try and create this wedge of, we weren't that close, so obviously we could not have discussed things that were of that sensitive and critical nature.
Precisely, and I think what you are saying is actually that crux of the matter. I mean, even in the WhatsApp exchanges, the sort of terms that they use with each other shows that their relationship was more brotherly than he's willing to even say, I mean, at one point, even before the lunch break, the commission was talking about how General Liseja Sinona had actually accompanied Matlala to go and meet with General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So that is the crux of the matter, and it shows that General Liseja Sinona, having his connections within the police force, may have actually used his position to benefit Vusmuzi Matlala, and now it is up to the commission to sort of even, extrapolate and draw that link between Matlala and, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu.
Yeah. We'll definitely keep a keen eye on this for the remainder of the day. Is there an indication, perhaps, how the rest of the afternoon might flow from Advocate Adila?
I mean, I think after the break, we'll definitely still traverse the meetings that he's had with General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and leading to this disbandment of the PKTT. But what I do understand is the fact that because we had an hour delay this morning, because his legal counsel wanted to consult with him, we may actually go later than we normally would, probably around 6 p.m. So Matlala will definitely still be in the hot seat to answer questions from the commission.
Awesome stuff. Spahlimoto, we'll leave it there for this afternoon. Much appreciated as per always. It is day 167 at the Madlanga Commission, and of course you can follow the live proceedings on SAfm Connect via SABC Plus. A quick pause from our end, and then we'll come back. We'll catch up with legendary retired South African swimmer, swimming coach and motivational speaker Penny Haynes. We're looking at moments in time today, and we're exploring life, legacy, and so much more.
In case you missed it,
15 years ago, people in Johannesburg weren't getting water from tanks. The roads were not in the state that they are in. We expect this to be a world-class city. This is no longer a world-class city, and it has been utterly destroyed by effectively political leadership. I don't always agree with Helen. I don't agree with the foreign policy, but of the candidates sitting on the table, she's the best we have.
Professor Adam Habib, Vice Chancellor of SOAS University of London.
That was National Briefing This Morning with Kathy Mutlatlana. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
As we chat with Penny Haynes, legendary retired swimming coach, as well as motivational speaker. It is Moments in Time, and we're exploring life, legacy, and so much more in conversation with probably one of the most illustrious sporting figures in South Africa, certainly one of the most decorated. How are you doing this afternoon, Penny?
Doing great, thanks.
Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. I'm quite curious to know what occupies the days of an Olympic gold medalist, a world record holder, who's now on, I'm going to say, pseudo-retirement, because you're not really retired.
No, retired from swimming, definitely. Those days are gone. But no, I have, my business partner keeps me very busy. We do a lot of swim camps internationally and in South Africa on weekends and like now in the week because I have foreign clients. I do one-on-one and private coaching.
Okay.
And apart from that, we have a foundation, Aquatic Foundation South Africa, where we're working in collaboration with Lifesaving South Africa to help roll out some of their water smart programs, which is educating the kids around water safety. And I do the corporate speaking and some workshops, that kind of stuff.
I mean, certainly you do sound very, very busy, a lot on your plate that you are juggling. Do you miss the adrenaline and the different kind of energy that's required as a competitive swimmer, as a competitive athlete?
I think I miss the, just pre-race, psyching up and the mental aspect of it. I think I miss more than the physical. It's not so much the competition. I never really was one, or I like to think anyway that I wasn't a person that was really competing against other people, rather against my own potential and my times. But of course, as you get older, you look back and you think, well, if only I was still that young, So if I miss anything, it's being that fit and that strong and, let's call it, ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested in what you call, or what you refer to as missing the mental element of it. Then I wonder, how has that changed? How has your, if at all, your sort of mental framing or how you go about things now, has it changed? How you approach things, has it changed slightly to back then when you were competing and perhaps had to engage a different kind of psychology?
I think a lot of what we as swimmers do at the highest level really transfers over into life in general and the business world. So if you call it the mental toughness aspect, I think I've kind of retained that. But obviously the world is not as easy as swimming. Swimming, you got the black line, it's very controlled, it's there and back, you have your season planned, whereas life is a little bit less predictable. So I did find there needed to be some adjustment in the way that I approach things. Of course, in the other sense, swimming is a very individual sport, and as a business person, I have a business partner, and often you're also dealing with more than just one. And of course, then I guess it becomes a little more like a team game, which I needed quite a bit of time to adjust to that.
Yeah.
But, if I think of swimming, it's that psyching up that, and I think I get that feeling maybe prior to the corporate speaking aspect or when I'm doing workshops, that kind of thing. It's difficult to capture the same adrenaline rush always.
Yeah.
If I were to relate it to swimming, but as I say, it was an adjustment after swimming.
Let's take a quick pause. Penny will come back and continue our conversation on the other side of the headline news. It's gone 1:30, and Ondela Mbane is patiently standing by.
Thank you, Bridget, and a very good day. On the news headlines, alleged crime kingpin Vusumuzi Matlala has testified that former KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Lisija Sinona gave him 20,000 rand in December 2024 after police raided his home and seized his phones. The Tiffany Meek trial has been postponed to the next month by the Johannesburg High Court, sitting in Palmbridge in Ekurhuleni. And Cosatu in the First State says the attack of a nurse while on duty at Tusadong Tissuti Hospital in Odendarsras has had a significant emotional impact on her and other healthcare workers. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
90 years of conversations, recaptured, relived, and projected. SAfm.
My name is Bridget Masinga and I'm from Joburg in the Gauteng province. I would like to say congratulations to SAfm on celebrating 90 remarkable years of informing, educating and inspiring us South Africans. Thank you for being, a trusted voice that has connected generations, through quality journalism and meaningful conversations.
From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAfm celebrates 90 years. In case you missed it,
cadres with ethical standards that is beyond any reproach and question, with integrity, with necessary qualifications, who basically are going to have to work differently. That is why leaders at this level are expected to produce ward delivery schedules. Each and every mayor, including their collectives, including those ward councillors, are going to have ward delivery schedules to be assessed.
Dr. Dixon Masemola, ANC NEC member.
That was The Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane. If you're active on social media and love SAfm, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAfm page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News.
Okay.
And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAfm, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
Deciding to not make a grocery shopping list may cost you an extra trip, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Outsurance, 37-year-old Lerato saves a whopping 599 rand a month on her 2026 Kia Sonet. Switch to Outsurance and you too could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP and T's and C's do apply.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
All right, let's continue with the conversation. We are chatting to South African Olympic gold medalist Penny Haynes, world record holder, by the way, whose extraordinary talent and determination makes her one of the country's greatest sportsing legends. as we get to know Penny a little bit more. Our WhatsApp is also open to you on 061 410 4107, or you can give us a call on 086 000 2032. We are also live on social media on X at SAfm Radio. Wherever you are, we are. Let's go back to the very beginning, Penny, and I know you spent, a good part of your career fielding the curiosity from South Africans and, of course, the global community alike. But take us back to those beginning stages as to what drew you to a swimming? What drew you to the love of water and the love of competitive swimming?
Let's say I never loved it. What then? No, I'm joking.
It happens.
Yeah, look, I think later on when something becomes like a job, then, the love wavers. But I was initially, I think, drawn to swimming growing up along the coast in Amanzimtoti. It's natural. You're always either in the swimming pool or the ocean. And I think it became quite apparent at a very young age, both for myself and my younger brothers, that swimming was a strong talent. And I grew up, in a Christian home where we were taught that, your talent is God-given, and someday you may stand before Him and answer for what you did with your talent. So if I were to say what is it that drove me throughout my career, I would tongue-in-cheek say a holy fear, because I didn't want to stand before the Lord someday and hear, why didn't you use your talent? So that was like the biggest, let's call it rather the golden thread throughout my career, because even though I joke about loving and not loving swimming, there were times when, I absolutely hated it and, concluded that must mean that I can retire. And then each time I would fall back on, can I honestly say I've done the absolute best with my talent? And then no matter how I felt, whether I wanted to continue or not, if the answer was no, I had not yet done everything, then I got to keep going.
And I guess that would answer my next natural question around, in those times when you felt that sort of tension between yourself and the swimming, what would be the draw factor? And from what I gather, it's that faith-based sort of motivation, that faith-based fuel around, well, if God was standing in front of you now, would you be able to say you did the absolute best?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. So I enjoyed swimming at times. Obviously, when I was young, it's easy when you're a kid to love it.
Yeah.
But it was a love-hate relationship in the latter years. Yeah.
I figure that if one speaks to folks who have gone on to break barriers in very many different sectors or arenas, that probably would be the golden thread, right? Wuti, the one thing that you are passionate about, the one thing that you have this intense love for, that you would do at a drop of a hat. Once it starts becoming the thing that consumes your every minute of thinking, of physicality, of showing up, etc., 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 at some point that relationship is bound to be tested. That sort of push tug between the love and the hate is bound to show up.
Definitely, and I think it's the road is not an easy straight road. There's always the ups and downs, and it's usually obviously in those dips where in sport it's easy to identify where you feel you failed, you haven't, you're kind of struggling against an uphill. Those are the moments when you want to quit. But I've learned along the way the definition of failure is very important, and I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's your greatest teacher. So if you could have that perspective, then you would, and you keep asking, what can I do? Can I be better? Then if there's something you could still try, or maybe I didn't give 100%, then you can keep going on. And it's those people who keep on keeping on that we see at the top of the podium, or that we see being successful as business people, etc. And I always say to my audiences, it's very possible that out there during my era, or during Tatiana's era now, or whoever's, that there are potentially greater athletes out there, but we don't know who they are because somewhere along the way they gave up. So, I think many times there's people out there that are more gifted, more talented, maybe even had better opportunities, but sometimes it comes too easy. And then they give up prematurely. So we don't know who they are.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of us don't have, do they call it stealth, that the likes of you have? Because as you're talking, I'm just thinking about, American actor Will Smith, who once made the analogy that I'm not the best actor out there. I'm not the most talented actor out there, not even the most handsome actor out there. But if you put me on a treadmill next to you, one of us is only stopping because their heart decided to stop, and that one of us is me. I'm going to keep going until you say you quit. And I think that's the mentality that sets winners at that level apart from everyone else.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the greatest Olympian ever, Michael Phelps, said something along the lines of the greatest athletes do what needs to be done, even if they don't feel like it. So, like I say, a lot of people, they keep going while they're happy and enjoying it, but then when it's not fun anymore, they quit.
Yeah.
And just because you don't feel like it doesn't mean you're done.
Absolutely. It is 2 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we come back on the other side and continue our conversation. We're also going to use this moment just to check in with our Cape Town studios to see whether or not Nancy Richards, the technical glitches that were hampering what is supposed to be a simulcast broadcast, have been sorted from that side. I'm pretty sure she would also love the opportunity to engage Penny in conversation. So let's take a quick pause, and then we'll come back on the other side.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAfm Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Looking for exclusive content, live events, and special broadcasts like the Madlanga Commission? Then connect to the all-new SAfm Connect stream. The Madlanga Commission, live and uninterrupted from 9:30 Monday to Friday. SAfm Connect brings you more of the conversations that matter. Listen anytime, anywhere by visiting connect.safm.co.za or stream directly on SABC Plus at sabc-plus.com. SAfm Connect. More conversations, more access. There's much more coming. In case you missed it,
Herman Mashaba, he's the last one to talk. He promised 2 years ago, I'm going to spend my money, I'll get those people out of Lily Mine. Where are they? They're still there.
Herman Mashaba, when you hear something like that, like I said, you could be sitting on an island somewhere, but you take this criticism, you must have a very thick skin, and how do you respond to something like that?
Well, I'm used to people who are drunk calling radio stations, and you can hear this person is not sober.
That was Nightfall with John Gericke. Bridget Masinga is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
All right. Did you know that you can buy SABC programs to enjoy at home and at your own time, from golden oldies like Ashifa Shaba to Nyaga Nyaga, and of course box sets of Isidingo, The Need, and other soapies for binge watching? Or is it the legendary old games perhaps that you're after, or programs from our radio stations that you're looking for? Well, we have you covered. For more information or to place an order, simply send an email to SABC Program Sales on contentsales@sabc.co.za or call 011-714-6650 or 011-714-7342.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
South Africa's Penny Hames at the Goodwill Games last year set the world mark, swimming one length of breaststroke in 31.58 seconds. Now in a time trial, from the gun, she's going to try to set a new world mark.
She's just so strong in the water. You can't take anything away from that strength. She has so
much kick behind her, too. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Remember, breaststroke is predominantly a lower body stroke. She really accelerates those legs behind her, has good upper body motion, always going forward.
She's looking good. And the crowd lets it go. She does it. 30.83 seconds, over a half a second better than her prior world mark.
Well, the world records never cease for this.
And that is just a little bit of a rewind for this moments in time as we go back to that day in 1999 when our guest Penny Haynes set the world record for the 6th time in 3 weeks by swimming the 200-meter breaststroke in the Pan-Pacific Games in Sydney, Australia in 2 minutes. And I wonder, because you've heard these moments so many times, I wonder for you, every time you get pulled back into that moment by way of an interview or a conversation or talk that you're having, your relationship now with these moments that are forever cemented in sporting history?
If I were watching the video, it would be a little critical, I guess, because a lot of what I do now is analyzing stroke and looking at the best people in the world. What is it that they're doing? So when I see a video of myself swimming, I see a lot of mistakes. A lot of things that I think today are so obvious, so logical, but for some reason when you're younger, you just don't think like that. So, but obviously sometimes I hear stuff I haven't heard before. I think this guy was referring, he said 98 in the 50, and then he spoke about Pan Pacs, but in between there was another swimmer months before where I lowered the record, so it wasn't quite a half a second's improvement. But it's always interesting to hear what these guys are saying, because at those early days you didn't really listen.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Nancy back on the line in Cape Town, and of course we're celebrating our 90 years of conversation this month, Penny. So we're having a guest host come through and present to us who've been a part of SAFM's journey. And Nancy Richards, who's an independent print and radio journalist, joins us from our studios in Cape Town. Nancy, hopefully you are able to, communicate with us and we can have the conversation with Penny.
Well, so totally, because I can hear you loud and clear. I've been listening interestedly with both of you, and it's absolutely wonderful. And Penny, I have to say, what a wonderful thing to have the opportunity to talk to you again, because you and I spoke a couple of years after that little clip that we just heard in 2001. And it was just, I know, very wild. I thought the same thing. And it was just after you'd retired. And I know that. You're probably thinking, gosh, she's got a good memory. Absolutely not. But I know that because we produced a book called Woman Today, a celebration of 50 years of South African women, when this program turned 50 years old back in 2002. And we put together a whole lot of interviews, and what we did was we transcribed them. And I have here me asking you, back in 2002, it must have been a really tough decision for you to give up swimming, Penny. And you say, I think on and off, I felt like it was time to give up, or to retire rather, because I'm a Christian and I really felt that it was time, that it was part of God's plan. But I've got a lot of peace about it. So it's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk to you all over again. But, Penny, my question, Bridget, if you can forgive me.
Yeah.
My question is, you're not competitive. You say you're not competitive. You actually had a bit of a love-hate relationship with swimming. You finally got yourself out of it. And you're teaching other young women, other young kids to get the best out of their life. What do you teach them? Do you say, be the best you can be? Do you say, just keep going? Do you say, follow God? What's your message to young people?
I think the message is, firstly, to recognize that everybody's here for a reason. I think sometimes people are out there and they're wondering, I'm not so important, and they're comparing themselves to other people. And I think the message is, you wouldn't be here if there wasn't a reason. So I believe everyone's created for a purpose. And, I try not to bombard them with my faith. Obviously, I can share my faith because that was a driving force in my swimming. But the perspective of, I have that talent and I have a duty to develop it to the best of my ability. So that's the first thing. The other thing that a lot of the teaching involves when it comes specifically to the camps is the life skills that's taken out of swimming, out of sport. Because ultimately, it sounds bad, but I don't really care if they swim well. If they do, that's nice. But I care that the person has been impacted in such a way that somehow it can contribute to their life and their development. And I want the swimmers, or even if it's a workshop with, be it in the corporate market or whoever my audience is, I want them to walk away feeling empowered and feeling like they have a reason to go on, and if it's in terms of sport, they have a reason to stand behind the blocks with a sense of, I can't wait to compete. Not because I want to win, not because I want to, beat anybody specifically, but because I want to see where I'm at. I've worked hard, I've applied myself, and now let's see where I'm at. And then lastly, obviously, the steps in terms of developing mental toughness, which is not just for sport, but I think very applicable in many areas of life.
Can I ask another one, Bridget?
Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. So just in terms of mental toughness, I mean, any sports coach will tell you you've got to have that drive. You talk about the driving force, perhaps being it your faith that was rather than the competitive, rather than the winning. But where does one find that direction, that mental toughness? In other words, who was your mentor?
Oh, my goodness. I guess, it's hard to say who was my mentor because in different ways, I guess various people played a role. Obviously, my parents, especially as I was very young, and of the two, my mother was the one that, she would always be talking about, can you say you've done the best you could? That message was always reinforced. I think later on, because it was so faith-driven, a lot of it was, as I say, not necessarily a person, but just a sense that I had that there's a deeper calling and swimming is part of that journey. But so when people don't share the same faith in terms of that aspect, I don't know. How do they find it? But we do need to find a deeper reason and more intrinsic reason for doing what we're doing. And then obviously, I guess in some way, my coaches along the way were mentors. And quite honestly, I can't think of anybody else.
Bridget, I'm sorry to keep chirping, but I have got one more question that I asked you back in whenever it was, Penny. I said to you, things have been very tough for women in sport. They've had to work doubly hard. What's your take on that? I mean, we've come, 20-odd years since then. We've got our cricketing girls are doing well, our hockey players are doing well, our women rugby players. Actually women have come quite a long way in sport. But do you think, I don't want to get genderist about it, but I think it being Women's Month, one's got to look at these things. Are women still having to work twice as hard to succeed, particularly in the sporting arena?
Yeah, I guess there is truth to that. Being Women's Month, there's been a number of various events celebrating that, and you hear people do their speeches, and our teams have been very, very successful. And a lot of the rhetoric is that not only need the same recognition, but I guess for many people it's the same pay. And if I may be really, really honest, that kind of irked me a bit, because when you talk about the team sports, they are getting some kind of pay, and they don't pay their own way to the events, where recently our swimmers, men and women, had to pay like $120,000 to go and represent the country. So yes, women in sport have come a long way. The degree of recognition that women are receiving, which is great, because that's also an inspiration to younger girls, and especially again in the team sports, that's been awesome. My concern is in the Cinderella sports. If let's say it this way, when boys win a gold medal, you see them on the posters and the billboards. But I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see Tatiana on a billboard. So, and if you look at track and field also, you can clearly see how the guys maybe win a gold medal, but not with a world record, or they come third and they got huge sponsors, where the female athletes don't draw that same attention. So I know it's an ongoing battle, but again, I don't think as much as the world revolves around money and we need to support ourselves and make a living, I would hope that we don't pursue the sport because that's what we're after.
Yeah.
I think we need to pursue, again, our individual potential and do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, Bridget, you might have some thoughts on this as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got to please the sponsors, we've got to please the admin people, but actually the public are just not as geared or fired up about women's sport as they are when they see the guys playing. I mean, that's the bottom line. I might be wrong. I hope so. What do you think, both of you?
I think that's a pretty, decent observation, Nancy. And I wonder, Penny, if to some degree, we have this conversation about gender pay parities all the time. And I wonder if to some degree, is it also a case that we're not moving the needle forward because there's been this sense of divide and conquer? And by that I mean, it's almost made taboo for women to sit in rooms together and really share the nitty-gritties of the finances, share what did Penny get from that other deal, or what did Penny ask for and she didn't get from that deal, and what was that conversation. I feel like the more we also disclose amongst ourselves, the more we walk into different spaces ready and armed to have a conversation that's based on information.
Yeah, I guess so. Somebody said the other day, it's actually a CEO of a company. A lady said to me, it's so easy to work with the men, but working with the women, it's always everybody trying to tear everybody down. So I don't know if it's a female thing, but we don't tend to support each other, I think, as well as the boys do. That's why it's a boys' club, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is a little bit more freedom in sharing. Maybe it's a boasting action, I don't know. The men share among each other what they're getting and how they go about things, whereas I think the girls tend to keep it to themselves. So, no, there's absolutely truth in that.
I mean, it's ironic, really, because women generally talk quite a lot to one another, and I'm thinking, it feels to me like there's room for a book here of the experiences of women in sport. How have they dealt with the competitive side? How have they dealt with the losses, the excitement, the headspace, all those things? Because we know so much about men in sport because so much is written about them. We've got individual books, books by individual sportswomen, but to have one with a whole lot of different experiences, I think. I think I'm offering you the job, Penny. I think you'd be ideally placed to write it.
And I was about to say,
goodness.
maybe Nancy, that should be your next book. But Penny, in our last,
I think it's Nancy's.
Yeah, I think it's Nancy's book right there. In our final moments, Penny, maybe we've got about a minute and a half as we wrap up the conversation. But you mentioned as you were talking, Nancy was asking about young female athletes and what the conversations that you have with them, and you say for you it matters more the care that a person has been impacted by and how they incorporate that into their lives, because I find a lot of the most talented people will have a struggle conversation about whether or not to pursue their dreams and goals, because maybe for them something else matters more than the natural talents that they have. No doubt you've encountered such conversations with your young swimmers, and what would be the advice for someone who's struggling to make that decision at the moment?
Oh my goodness. This actually reminds me, she wasn't so young, but it reminds me of a friend who a couple of years ago, she would have gone 2012 Olympics and probably could have won a medal, but was also studying medicine and asked me, she's going to have to either defer her studies for a while, but it's a critical time. And I said to her, look, the medals are nice, but I don't know. For me, I would not defer my studies. I said to her, I would go after the medical degree, because there's so many people who win medals and then they feel that depression. And I mean, we have enough cases out there to know professional athletes retiring, committing suicide. It's not the pathway to happiness. So if it's not forming part of your purpose and you feel you're pulled or called in a different direction, then by all means pursue that. So that's why I said it's not about the swimming for me. It's about saying one word that makes the world of difference. If I may just share this very quickly. Just after I went to the States, I came back, I was training in South Africa, and my best time at that stage was a 112. And this elderly coach who was helping me with stroke said to me he believes I can go a 109, which is 3 seconds faster. And I kind of thought he's a bit crazy, but there was a swimmer standing there listening who was about 5 years older than I am, and she was a Springbok and someone I grew up admiring. And she just said, I agree. Just those two words made all the difference to me. And so I always fall back on that and think, I don't even know. We don't know what it means to someone else when we say simple things like that. But, I think that's what's important. And sadly, a lot of coaches get very focused on the results and making them do the work instead of rather developing the person.
Absolutely. Penny Haynes, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That was legendary South African swimmer, as well as motivational speaker and swimming coach Penny Haynes for Moments in Time, bringing us to 2 o'clock. Ondelambana is standing by with the top of the hour news.
Thank you, Bridget. On the top stories, update on police investigation in Knysna shooting and Tiffany Meek's trial postponed to next month. For SAfm News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. Western Cape Police Commissioner Sizakele Dyanji says investigations are at a crucial stage following this morning's shootout between police and a suspect in Knysna, which left a policeman dead as well as the suspect. Police were following up on leads into the recent deaths of Knysna former Mayor Aubrey Tengwa and 2 others when the shooting occurred. The information took members of the Provincial Technical Response Team to the SAfm Delan informal settlement when the shootout occurred. Dyanji says the prevalence of illegal firearms is what led to members to the area.
There was a shootout that took place where the suspect shot at the police and the police returned fire. In that process, we then have one of our members fatally wounded as well as the suspect. We managed to recover 2 firearms within the suspect's possession, which were then busy for the purpose of investigation in this matter.
Alleged crime kingpin Vusumuzi Matlala has testified that former KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Major General Lesija Sinona gave him 20,000 rand in December 2024 after police raided his home and seized his phones. The first raid occurred at Matlala's home on the 6th of December 2024. He's answering questions about his relationship with Sinona after initially invoking his right against self-incrimination when questioned about their relationship. Matlala also says Sinona undertook to find out more about the second raid, which occurred on 18 December 2024, but never returned with any information.
And I told him that, listen, they even took my phones. I cannot even make transaction. I even borrowed money from him.
Yes.
Yes. I remember that day he gave me 20,000 rands.
The Tiffany Meek trial has been postponed to next month by the Johannesburg High Court. Sitting in Palmbridge in Ekurhuleni, the High Court concluded the inspection in loco at the Swazi Flats in Vleehof, west of Johannesburg. Meek is accused of murdering her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee. Inspection in loco refers to a visit by the judge to the crime scene in an effort to understand or resolve an issue in the case. Horisani Sitole reports.
The matter has been rolled over to next month following the visit to the block of flats where Jaden Lee Meek took his last breath. This was the mother Tiffany's first time to revisit the murder scene since her arrest in July last year. So far, a number of witnesses have testified in the trial, including Jaden Lee's school teacher and scholar transport driver Mzwake Khumalo, whom Tiffany had alleged he was responsible for her son's disappearance. Next month, the court is expected to call in a new witness. For SABC News, I'm Horisani Sitole.
COSATU in the First State says that attack on nurse while on duty at Tusalong District Hospital in Woordendarslas has had a significant emotional impact on her and other healthcare workers. COSATU's Provincial Secretary Disetso Mahlatsi says the union will continue supporting 60-year-old nurse Jane Dialy, who threw out the court proceedings and wants the matter to reach its conclusion. The case against a 40-year-old man accused of rape, assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, harm and malicious damage to property has been postponed to the 18th of September. Mahlatsi says society needs to change its attitude towards healthcare workers. At least 384 travelers are missing after torrential floods swept through Nepal's Himalayan region near the Tibetan border. The country's tourism board says 291 of those missing are foreign nationals. They include 105 Indian nationals. At least 9 people have died in the floods, with rescue operations underway. Recapping the top story, Western Cape Police Commissioner Sizakele Janji says investigations are at a crucial stage following this morning's shootout between police and a suspect in Leisner, which left a policeman dead as well as the suspect. I'm on Dilambana for SAfm News Headlines at 2:30.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen. For 90 years, South Africa has changed. Governments have changed. Generations have changed. Technology has changed. But through it all, one thing has remained: the conversation. From the voices of yesterday.
This morning to me, well, it took 8 attempts, but the Big Easy finally did it. South Africa's Bernie Els finally recorded his first win.
And it's just a month and a half until the start of the World Summit in Johannesburg. Now, most people are aware of the summit's goals.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that she has really paid a very big price for taking up music. Because what happened is that she left her daughter, one and only daughter.
You're listening to SAfm 104 to 107, and it's time for our music documentary series, The Music Makers. What is it all about?
To the voices shaping tomorrow. This August, SAfm celebrates 90 years of conversation. A nation's story, our shared future. SAfm turns 90 from 1 August. SAfm, the conversation continues. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can. Your beauty is beyond compare, with flaming locks of auburn hair, with ivory skin and eyes of emerald green. Your smile is like a breath of spring, your voice is soft like summer rain, and I cannot compete with you, Jolene. He talks about you in his sleep, and there's nothing I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name, Jolene. And I can easily understand how you could easily take my man, but you don't know what he means to me, Jolene. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can. You could have your choice of men, but I could never love again. He's the only one for me, Jolene. I had to have this talk with you. My happiness depends on you, and whatever you decide to do, Jolene. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him even though you can. Jolene,
Dolly, where I come from, would I have called you a hillbilly?
If you had of, it would have been something very natural, but I would have probably kicked your shins or something. No, actually.
But when I think of hillbillies, am I thinking of your kind of people?
I think you probably are. The people that grew up where I was were the ones that you would consider the little Abner people, Daisy May, and that sort of thing. They took that kind of thing from people like us, but we were very proud people, people with a lot of class. It was country class, but it was a great deal of class, and most of my people were not that educated, but they are very, very intelligent, good common sense, horse sense we called it.
Dolly, did you look like this when you were a kid?
Not quite.
I mean, you didn't have the blonde wig, but when you went to school, when you were 11, 12, 13, was it this about you?
Well, you mean the full figure?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. Well, actually, I've always been pretty well blessed. As a child, I grew up fast. Other members of my family, have done the same.
My assistant asked me something, and I'm going to blame it on her because I wouldn't have had the nerve otherwise. Is it all you?
Well, I can't show you here right on television.
I'll take your word for it.
I get asked that question. I always answer that because people are in awe of the whole thing. A lot of people say I have. A lot of people say I haven't. I always say that if I hadn't have had it on my own, I'm just the kind of person that would have had me some maid.
You don't have to look like this. You're very beautiful. You don't have to wear the blonde wigs. You don't have to wear the extreme clothes, right?
No, it's certainly a choice. I don't like to be like everybody else. I've often made this statement that I would never stoop so low as to be fashionable. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. So I just decided that I would do something that would at least get the attention. Once they got past the shock of the ridiculous way I looked and all that, then they would see there was parts of me to be appreciated. I'm very real where it counts, and that's inside, and as far as my outlook on life and the way I care about people and the way I care about myself and the things that I care about. But I just chose to do this, and show business is a money-making joke, and I've just always liked telling jokes.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
And that was the incomparable Dolly Parton in conversation with another phenomenal broadcaster, Barbara Walters, back in 1977. This clip obviously surfaced on the back of Dolly Parton's family making the announcement of the megastar having passed away at the age of 80. And we thought, well, listen, she was Dolly. After all, in fact, for us to have a tribute to Dolly would require an entire lifetime, at least a year of the show to fit in everything that Miss Parton was in music, in the business of music, in community, in social outreach, in philanthropy, you name it, and there was not an area where her heart did not touch fans and just admirers alike. She passed on at age 80, and that news being announced and confirmed by her family via a video on all of her official social media platforms. A lot of her fans saying what a classy way to announce the passing of Dolly Parton, because she always ensured that she was in charge of the situation right up until the very end. Weirdly enough, it also comes just a few weeks after she also made a public social media post where she was sharing and bringing in her fans in as far as her health journey has been concerned, sharing what she was going through, had been going through over the last 2-3 years. And in typical Dolly style, very jovial, very light about what obviously was a very serious health situation. So, we thought we'd bring you down memory lane with Jolene, one of her more iconic songs. And this is actually the song that she performed when she got inducted into the Hall of Fame. She chose to perform Jolene at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. And she was supported by an all-star lineup featuring Pink and Sheryl Crow and Brandi Carlile. The genesis of the song is another interesting story. You know, I love an interesting story about a song. The genesis of the song is that she was in concert somewhere, bumped into a red-headed young lady who happened to be a fan of hers. And once they exchanged pleasantries, she said to the young lady, Jolene. Jolene? Oh, Jolene. What an interesting name. I'm going to write a song about it. And she wrote a song about it. And then she went on to bless Beyonce, of course, a few years ago, authentically giving her permission to rework Jolene and release it in her pop record, Cowboy Carter. Nancy, you still with us for the second hour of the show. Let's talk a little bit about Dolly Parton. You know,
Totally. I mean, how much did you like that little 1977 voice? I mean, that little voice, I mean, it's just too wonderful. But interesting about her, I've just been reading the blurb about her, is that, like Penny, she's also God-driven. You know, she was the fourth of 12 children, you know, so she obviously had to keep her voice high so she could be heard. But, I mean, they were all very religious, and that would have been her entree into her career. And it isn't extraordinary, but it's notable. But what I really like about Dolly Parton is that in 1995 she started, as I'm sure you know, the Imagination Library.
Yes.
And she has given literally millions of books. It's all over the place. But the reason she started it, bless her heart, was because her father couldn't read. So she wanted to ensure that every child could read. And I just absolutely love her to bits for that. In fact, just recently I was in the UK and I went to a library in Wandsworth in London, and there was this huge picture of Dolly Parton with all these books, and I thought, I was a bit ashamed that I didn't know about it. But there was Dolly Parton, you know, magnanimously handing out all these books, and I thought, I mean, not in the flesh, just in the poster. But I thought, wow. And, you know, Jolene sprang into my head, and I just wanted to give her a great big hug and say, thank you for what you're doing. 5 countries, millions of books. It's everywhere. How amazing. What a legacy, eh?
Absolutely, definitely one of, and her philanthropy was always quietly done. You know, it's surfaced here and there because of people in community talking about it, leading with it, but never from Dolly herself. It's been interesting the last couple of hours since the announcement of the news. Folks from as far as Australia talking about the Imagination Library and how they themselves were beneficiaries. Some of them talking about their children being beneficiaries. And of course, we know when COVID struck, Dolly was one of the first, if not the first, celebrity to donate millions of dollars to research to make sure that vaccines got in the hands of those who needed it most. And I'm sure that legacy will continue to be entrusted upon her family and beloveds to continue her great work. I mean, we're going to continue reflecting on Dolly in the next couple of moments. I don't know about you, so I've only been in this radio game for the last 21 years, and I know you've been around the roller coaster for quite a bit. But I was thinking that I remember spending my Saturday afternoons, because inevitably you listen to the radio that your parents are listening to, you know, what's being played in the house. And I would spend my Saturday afternoons listening to Ubab Treasure Shabalala on the Golden Oldies on 702. And he would play a lot of Dolly and a lot of Kenny Rogers. And that's where my love for country music began. Were you ever a fan of country music at all?
I have to say no. I so long to say absolutely yes, wonderful. It just never really been my thing. But and I grew up listening to things like Listen with Mother, and all the little stories and all that, all those things. But country music, I mean, I admire it. I appreciate it. I love it when people have a passion for something. But for me, it didn't really work. But the other thing about Dolly, anybody who's a performing artist, a bit like anybody who's a sports person, you've got a shelf life. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Penny could only swim for so long. Dolly kept on reinventing. She kept on doing something more. And I think it's sometimes quite difficult when you've reached a peak of celebrity to keep going. And everybody says, oh, she's not as good as she was. I mean, look at the Rolling Stones, People just they somehow just slip away and fade out. But she just kept on going and reinventing. And what was she driven by? I mean, what was her motivation? It's in itself, it's inspirational.
Yeah.
But, you know, my absolutely favorite Dolly Parton quick facts, I'm looking at your list here, that she once secretly entered a Dolly Parton drag queen lookalike contest in a gay bar and lost. She lost. I mean, how, you know, don't you just love it? There's no accounting, is there? There's really no accounting.
That's definitely one of my favorite Dolly Parton stories, and she tells it all the time about how she lost that drag competition. Let us quickly just play out with just the last minute and a half of that conversation between her and Barbara Walters, because I think that conversation, all 4 minutes of it, encompassed just everything about Dolly was explained with such clarity in 4.5 minutes. Even though, really, if we're being honest, Barbara Walters was a bit shoddy in how she conducted that conversation. But let's play into the ad break with that.
Yes, lovely.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAfm to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAfm.
Cape Verde, West Africa. An island nation in the Atlantic Ocean, located off the western coast of Africa near Senegal and Mauritania. A country shaped by the sea, volcanic islands, ocean winds, and a culture carried through music. Portuguese is the official language. Cape Verdean Creole gives rhythm to everyday life.
More than likely, Tsetse, that you're being described up and down the country at the moment as a communist.
There is no truth in that as far as I'm concerned. It is just that in South Africa, if you're not doing what the government expects you to do, then you are a communist, of course.
This is what we are becoming. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
Electricity theft and network vandalism doesn't just damage power lines, they leave communities without electricity. Eskom remains committed to improving network reliability and sustainable electricity futures. Smart meters reduce energy losses, improve network performance, and help to eradicate load reduction. Say yes to smart meters and help build a safe and reliable electricity network. Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Bridget Masinga is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube,
But do you ever feel that you're
at SAfm Radio.
But do you ever feel that you're a joke, that people make fun of you?
Oh, I know they make fun of me. But actually, all these years, the people, has thought the joke was on me, but it's actually been on the public. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can change it at any time. Or I make more jokes about myself than anybody. Because I enjoy it. I know, like I say, I am sure of myself as a person. I'm sure of my talent. And to me, and I'm sure of my love and for life and that sort of thing, I'm very content. I like the kind of person that I am. So I can afford to piddle around and diddle around with makeups and clothes and stuff because I am secure with myself.
Listen, tell me about this marriage of yours, this man whom nobody ever seems to see. We heard that he was here. We heard that he was in town, but none of us have seen him. Paul Dean, you don't see him very much. You're on the road most of the time. You've said, I know that this marriage will always last. This man gives me everything I need. How do you know?
Well, I need freedom. The man gives me freedom.
So why get married?
Well, why not?
Why? I mean, if what you want most is freedom, why have a husband tucked away someplace to see 6 weeks a year?
But he has this same freedom. See, the thing of it is, you don't find a person that you can be happy with and that can accept you the way you are and can share the things and to plan for the future and to enjoy your home. We have our foundation, we have our roots, we have all the things that everybody's looking for, and that's happiness in a marriage. I've got better things to do than to sit around in my room thinking, oh, what's Carl doing tonight? I wonder if he's with somebody and this and that.
And that was Dolly Parton in her own words with Barbara Walters back in 1977. And today we say rest in peace to both women. Dolly there reflecting on her unconventional but conventional marriage to her husband, Carl Thomas Dean, who was a entrepreneur in his own right, lived a very private life, didn't bother nobody, was barely seen out and about with Miss Dolly Parton. In fact, I think I was Googling last night, and there's been about 6-7 pictures in the history of Dolly's professional career that have her and Carl in them. And she released them when they were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. But yes, we're hanging out with Nancy Richards this afternoon as we celebrate 90 years of conversation, the nation's story, and our shared future. Nancy, let's talk about your time at SAfm, right? Because you've had and occupied the seat as a talk radio presenter / host for many a moons, presenting shows like Women Today, and then presenting the SAfm Literature Book Show, going on to also presenting the Enviro Show, all about environmental issues. So not only have you been in broadcasting for, quite a while, but also you've had different iteration of conversation during your tenure.
Yes, indeed. And it was all by chance, really. One just sort of toddled along, and suddenly there I was sitting in front of the microphone. But it was a joy. It was a huge, massive education, because every time you talk to somebody, you listen to somebody and you receive their story. And so that was a learning curve, whatever it was about, whether it was, somebody talking about their business or somebody talking about their book or their agriculture. It was just all such a huge learning curve, because, as you know, you have to do a little bit of homework before you do the interview. But then you listen to them, and it's just such a gift. It really was a gift. Thank you.
Your first interview, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your first on-air interview was back in 1993. I mean, do you remember that first subject, that first show?
I absolutely do. And I was... I won't use the word, but I was scared out of my tree, I have to tell you. She was Welsh, she was an embroiderer, and she was of the Baha'i faith.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, I thought, where are we going with this? But it was wonderful, and of course I prepared all the questions and got all, and all that preparation. It goes out of the window, because when you start to talk to somebody, actually they lead the conversation, and you just listen and follow. So it was... Yes, it was a strange introduction, but it led me up all sorts of paths, I can tell you.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to make any kinds of judgments, because I'm presuming this was for Women Today, right?
That was indeed for Women Today, which had previously, as you probably know, been called Women's World, and then became Otherwise, because it's a long story. I don't know if you really care to listen to that one. But the thing about it was that we heard lots of women's stories, and if I can just share this with you.
Yeah.
There was one lady who came into the studio, and she had calipers, and she was sort of slightly crippled. And she came in and she sat down, and she had written a book about her domestic worker, about the domestic worker's life. And I thought, that's really interesting. But I thought it would have been so much more interesting if the domestic worker had written a story about her life. And that led me to think that it's not just about people telling their stories, it's about people listening to stories. And as a result of that, I started an organization called Women's Zone, which is an opportunity for women to share their stories with one another and listen to one's stories. And I think that's really important. It's not just about telling your story, it's about sharing and listening equally. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to bank this train of thought and just take the headline news, and then when we come back on the other side, because I'm also interested in your sense of how broadcast media has changed over the years. You know, when in my mind, just trying to envision a show like Woman Today, previously Woman's World, and some of the conversation and the content and the themes that were explored there versus, what broadcast media is and what female broadcasters now engage in, and how that speaks and reflects the evolution of women from 1993 to where we find ourselves in 2026. Let's take a quick pause for the headline news, and then Nancy will go into our kids programming, and you and I will catch up on the other side of that.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, Congress of Traditional Leaders President Koshima Tupamkwena has urged traditional leaders to facilitate democracy in their areas by establishing a level playing field for all those contesting the upcoming local government elections. Western Cape Police Commissioner Sizakele Janji says investigations are at a crucial stage following this morning's shootout between police and a suspect in Knysna, which left a policeman dead as well as the suspect. And Tanzania's Vice President Emmanuel John Chimbi has resigned less than a year into the job. President Samia Suluhu Hassan has accepted his resignation with no reason given. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
90 years of questions, 90 years of answers, 90 years of South Africans.
Hello SAfm family, my name is Lucan Samang from Val 88.1, also known as the voice of Vets, and I would like to wish you a very happy 90th birthday. For 9 decades you have been a trusted voice in South African broadcasting, informing, inspiring and connecting many generations of listeners through credible journalism.
Voices may have changed, times may have changed, but the conversation continues. SAfm 90 years.
Welcome to the SABC Radio Archives. For over a century, we've passionately captured South Africa's heartbeat, preserving historic moments, iconic music, and compelling storytelling from all 19 SABC radio stations, ensuring these priceless recordings shape future generations. Explore a century of South African heritage waiting to be rediscovered. Visit the SABC Information Library and Radio Archives online or call us directly at 011-714-3936 or email lishilosj@sabc.co.za. SABC Libraries and Archives, preserving the past, supporting the present, inspiring the future.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm. This program is brought to you by SABC Education. And if you miss any of our programs, you can catch up anytime on the SABC Plus app or on the SABC Plus website, www.sabcplus.com. Brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello friends and happy Wednesday. It's time for Kids Corner on SAfm. Today we're talking about making good choices and learning from our decisions. Every day we make choices. Some are easy while others can be a little more difficult. How do you decide whether something is a good choice or a bad choice? Have you ever had to make a difficult decision? What did you choose and why? What can happen if we make a bad choice even if we didn't mean to? What should you do if your friends are encouraging you to make a choice you know is wrong? And who can you talk to when you're not sure whether you're making the right decision? Alright friends, let's hear from some of our friends while you share your answers with the people next to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Matemba Khosa. I am 7 years old. I go to Jabez Christian Academy School. Good choices help keep us safe, happy and include others. Bad choices hurt feelings and cause trouble. I have had to make a difficult decision. I had to choose between visiting my grandparents or staying home. I chose to stay home to help my mom with the baby. Making a bad decision by mistake still leads to consequences. If your friends push you to make a wrong decision or choice, say no clearly and leave the situation. I can talk to my parents if I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision or not.
Greetings, my name is Praise Ziba, and today I'll be talking about good and bad choices. A good choice helps me and others, and a bad choice can hurt either mine or other people's feelings. And yes, I've had a hard choice before, and that was choosing between the right thing and the bad thing. So it was of like making a choice between losing a friend. And if we make bad choices, we can hurt people unwillingly too, because we won't know if the choice is good or bad. And if friends tell me to do wrong things, sometimes it is a very hard thing, and I believe it is a very bad choice to take. If I ever need help on taking choices, I ask my adults. Thank you.
Hello there, my name is Bridget Masinga. For me, thinking about how my parents would react to me making a specific choice helps me decide if it is a good one or a bad one. Yes, I have had to make a difficult choice before. I just don't remember what's about. If we make a bad choice, even if we didn't intend to, it can lead to serious consequences because we could offend someone or in some way ruin their belongings. If your friends are encouraging you to make a choice you know is very wrong, you should explain to them why you won't be making that choice and why you say it's bad to help them see its badness. An older sibling, parents, or teachers are people you can consult about whether a certain decision is the right one or not.
Hi, my name is Tanda Mutsumatike. When I decide whether something is a bad choice or whether something is a good choice, I think and I go more into the detailed suggestion, and I think if it's a bad choice or a good choice. And normally, if I don't know, I go to my mom or older person. I had a difficult decision. The decision was would I stop netball or would I do something else? Like, I also had to think normally if I wanted to go to a different sport and stuff, because I wanna be a multitasker. I wanna do different things. If you make a bad choice, even if you didn't mean to do it, it can still lead to consequences. Like, remember, there's a bad choice and a good choice, so the bad one leads to consequences and stuff. If my friends are encouraging me to make a choice that I know is wrong, I usually would pretend I'm doing it, but then I'll move somewhere else and then I'll go to an older person, or I'll just say, no guys, this is a wrong thing to do, I'm not going to do it. When I'm not sure if a decision is right or wrong, I normally go to my mother mostly. If not my mother, I go to my sister, because those are the people that I know I go to.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Kabamba. I think I decide whether something is a good or bad choice by thinking about the consequences and asking myself if it could hurt me or someone else. I have had to make difficult decisions before, especially when I know what I want to do and what I know I should do are two different things. Sometimes making the right choice isn't easy, but I would rather choose something that I won't regret later. If my friends encouraged me to do something I knew was wrong, I'd respectfully say no and stick to what I believe is right. If I am unsure about a decision, I can always talk to my parents, a teacher, or another trusted adult.
Hi, my name is Danny Cowood. I decide if something is a good or bad choice by thinking about the consequences and whether it will help or harm me or others. One difficult decision I had to make was choosing between spending time with my friends and studying for a test. I chose to study because my education is more important, and there will always be other opportunities to spend time with friends. When we make a bad choice, even if we didn't mean to, it can still lead to problems and consequences that you will have to deal with. If my friends encourage me to do something wrong, I would politely say no and explain to them that what they're doing is wrong and why it's wrong. When I'm unsure about a decision, I can always talk to a parent, teacher, or another adult that I trust for advice, or maybe even my friend. Thank you.
Greetings to you all. My name is Serena. Thank you so much for listening to the Kids Radio Show today. How I decide whether something is a good or a bad decision is I think about the outcome of my actions. Yes, I have had to make a difficult decision before. For example, for technology, I had to once either make an alarm or a fire system, and it was a really difficult decision because they were really good systems. But in the end, I ended up picking an alarm system because it was really easy for me to build. What would happen if we make a bad choice, even if we didn't mean to make that choice, is, for example, say you make a bad choice with your friends and you join the wrong type of group, you can end up being influenced by those friends and end up doing things you're not supposed to do. What should you do if your friends are encouraging you to do something that you know is wrong? Is you just simply say no to them and you walk away from the situation. Who I talk to whenever I need to make a decision is I talk to my parents. Thank you so much for listening to the Kids Radio Show today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!
Hello, my name is Ribuya Rarushai. I think a good choice is a choice that will not hurt me or anyone else. I have had to make difficult decisions before, and I usually think about the consequences first. If my friends encourage me to do something wrong, I say no and walk away. If I am unsure, I talk to someone I trust.
Thank you, friends. It's always great to hear from you. And to our friends listening, I hope you shared your answers with the people next to you. Making good choices is an important part of growing up. Every day we make decisions about what we say, what we do, who we spend time with, and how we treat other people. Some choices are easy, while others can be difficult. Before making a decision, it can help you to stop and think. Ask yourself, is this safe? Is it kind? Is it honest? Could this choice hurt me or someone else? Thinking about what might happen next can help us make better decisions. Sometimes we can make a choice that turns out to be wrong. Making a decision doesn't mean you're a bad person. What is important is that we take responsibility, learn from what happened, apologize when necessary, and try to make a better choice next time. It can also be difficult when friends encourage us to do something we know is wrong. Remember, you don't have to make a bad choice just because your friends are doing it. It is okay to say no, I don't think that's a good idea, and walk away. And if you're unsure about what to do, talk to someone you trust, such as a parent, guardian, teacher, or a trusted adult. They can help you think about your choices and what might happen because of them. Remember, friends, being a good decision maker doesn't mean you will never make mistakes. It means you're willing to think carefully, take responsibility for your actions, and learn from your experiences. So the next time you have a difficult choice to make, stop, think about the consequences, choose wisely, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Keep making good choices, keep learning from your mistakes, and remember that every day gives you another opportunity to make a better decision. That's it for today, friends. See you next time.
If you miss any of our programs, you can catch up anytime on the SABC Plus app or on the SABC Plus website, www.sabcplus.com. Brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. Every generation has a story.
Don't worry, I'll just bring it
Every
close.
generation has questions. Every generation has a voice. For 90 years, SAfm has been part of the conversation. This August, we listen back to the voices that brought us here. We celebrate the people
Yeah,
who
no, it's
shaped
fine. I
our
just brought it
journey,
forward
and
manually.
we listen for the voices that will shape what comes next, including the launch of a new annual SAfm property. This Women's Month, we are in search of an SAfm woman. 4 extraordinary women, 4 extraordinary journeys. One question: what does it mean to be an SAfm woman? SAfm 90 years. Women, a new voice. 90 years of conversation. A nation story, our shared future. From 1 August, SAfm. Bridget Masinga is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
All right, in the final moments of the show, we are going to be catching up with the folks from Africa Cocoon and focusing more on their disability and inclusion programs. Unaccommodated but not unable. Africa Cocoon's Disability and Inclusion Division actually hosted the Mr. and Miss Ability Contest. And we saw Yanga Gongwana, who's 25 from Orange Farm, being crowned as Mr. Ability for 2026. And then Unjabulo Vincent Mtembu, a runner-up in the Mr. Ability contest. And of course, in the Miss Ability, we had Unonhlanhla Nxasana, who's 21 from Braamfontein, being crowned. I just want, before we get into the conversation, because we're going to be in conversation with Lana Roy from Africa Cocoon and Jabulo Mtembu, who is the runner-up for Mr. Ability, I just want to play a little clip from the actual winner, Yanga Gongwana, who's Mr. Ability 2026, on reflecting on what it meant for him to be crowned Mr. Ability. All right, we are still just trying to get the guests on the line from our other studio. Like I did say, we are remoted today because we're broadcasting from SABC HQ's main foyer. We're basically a welcoming committee today for this live stream, and then we've got Unansi, who's out in Cape Town. So while we try and get the guests on the line, let me just remind you that this Women's Month, Radio 2000 invites you to step away from the ordinary and enjoy an experience that's created especially for women. So Radio 2000, in partnership with Harty's Boat Company, present the first ever Her 2000 Femme Fest Getaway. And this is a ladies-only event that's taking place at Harty's Harbour on Sunday, the 30th of August. It's a gentle cruise across the Harty's waters with Radio 2000 DJs, DJ Ngosh, David Mashabela, DJ Smoo. Ishmael Abrams is also going to be there, amongst many, many other faces of Radio 2000. And they're all going to be playing memorable sounds in the background whilst you have insightful conversations and enjoy live performances by Vusi Nova and Jazeel Brothers, as well as Encore. So come dressed comfortably in your Radio 2000 colors of red, blue, green, and yellow. Please remember no heels, because we're going to be on a boat, so you might as well wear boat shoes. Radio 2000, our music, your memories. Radio 2000, am I invited? As I look at David. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back on the other side with our guests.
In case you missed it.
15 years ago, people in Johannesburg weren't getting water.
What did I do to this
tanks.
Shandis?
The
I don't know what I
roads were
did to
not
it.
in the state that they are in.
Oh, no, it's this part.
To be a world-class city. This is
There
no
we go.
longer a world-class city, and it has been utterly destroyed
Here
by
we go.
effectively political leadership. I don't always agree with Helen. I don't agree with the foreign policy, but of the candidates sitting on the table, she's the best we have.
My hay
Professor
fever
Adam
wants to
Habib,
say
Vice
hello.
Chancellor of SOAS University of London.
Yes, yes.
That was National Briefing this morning with Kathy Mutlatlana. Before there was the SAfm You Know Today, there was the English service, there was Radio South Africa, Radio South Africa, and there was a country going through extraordinary change.
Hello. Good morning,
People in the
Mr.
community
Redfield.
WhatsApp group, the way they bore me. Jesus, I can't wait to be living on
Through
my
the
own.
states of emergency.
Earlier,
Without
it was
neighbors.
reported an explosion had occurred at an ESCOM.
Through the release of Nelson Mandela.
Comrades and fellow South Africans, I greet you all.
Through the birth of a democratic South Africa.
As we know, elections do not create change, they create only the opportunity for change.
The conversations continued, and in 1995, a new SAfm emerged. A new country, a new voice, a new chapter. This August, SAfm looks back at the journey that brought us here. The voices, the moments, the people, the history. 90 years of conversation, a nation story, our shared future. SAfm turns 90 from 1 August. SAfm, the conversation continues. Bridget Masinga is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
All right, let's prepare to wind down the show. Lana Roy, Africa Takun's Disability Inclusion Head, alongside Njabulo Mthembu, who is the runner-up for Mr. Ability, are joining me now as we reflect on the Mr. and Miss Ability 2026 contest. Lana, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm already on morning. Good afternoon, Bridget.
It's
and
okay.
Thank you for having me
Only
on your show.
Only a pleasure. So talk to us about Mr. and Miss Ability. This forms part of the eventing schedule for Africa Takun's Disability and Inclusion Wing.
100%. So it's now in its second year. So I was going to say it's annual, but this is the second year that we've put this together through my team of people who work with me. And what it's about is the celebration of young people with disability. Last year, it focused more on physical disabilities. This year, we had a big focus on people with intellectual disability and some physical disabilities. And what it's important to show is this isn't a beauty contest. This isn't who presents themselves the best and who is the prettiest or the most handsome person that's walking down the ramp. It's who has taken the time to develop their confidence, who can now go from not being able to speak on stage or never having the opportunity to speak on stage to now be able to come on a stage and, you know what, give them 10 minutes to shine. And, you know, people who just don't have the opportunity, they are behind the scenes, they are hidden in their homes. This is the first time that people actually just see them, and it's beautiful.
Lovely. Before we get to talking to Njabulo Mthembu, who's this year's runner-up, I'll also just have a little clip from the winner of Mr. Ability 2026, reflecting on what this contest and ultimately the win meant to him.
Igama lami uyangakungwana, 26 years old. It means I present my people proud to show people I can conquer their stage. I don't pity myself. I am a guy who wants to show the world I can make it. Ambassador means advocating for young people. My dream is to be the DJ.
You know, I love that because I think at times we forget to put ourselves in the literal shoes of folks and also remind ourselves that everybody has a dream, everybody has an ambition, despite what their physical ability or disability may present as.
100%. Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about Younger, Lana.
Oh, Younger is just the most incredible human. And not only is Younger the most incredible human, but his family are. And when he was announced the winner, his mother ran up on stage. And if I could have shown you, and I wish we had the ability to be visual here, the happiness that came from her on that day, because I think it was the first time again that this young man with an intellectual disability was able, you know, to shine. He hasn't won any prizes at school. He hasn't even finished school. You know, I think he's got as far as a grade 4. But he is so determined and so confident to actually show up and make a difference that this was his chance. And I'm hoping that this year will bring that for him, that this year will give him the confidence to know that he can achieve anything, whether he has a disability or not. And as we say, it's not that he's disabled, he's just unaccommodated.
Absolutely. The shocking statistic and the concerning statistic speaks to what you just said about youngers' educational journey, right? That around 61% of young persons with disabilities in Africa are actually out of school.
Yeah. This is a frightening statistic, and then take the employment of these people is even higher. So we've already got a youth unemployment rate of over 60-something%, and now we've got youth with disability that is like in the 70-80s. So we really have young people who just don't have the opportunity. And, you know, these learnerships that are available and all these opportunities are always for young people with a matric. What happens when you don't have a matric? What happens to these young people? You know, they then have to learn skills. So they have to be skill-based, and there are definitely places, hopefully, that can teach that. But we need more people to come up with ways that we don't have these, you know, NQF and these qualifications and CETA accredited things that require a matric. Not all young people have a matric, and, you know, this is the unfortunate reality of people specifically who are living with intellectual or learning disabilities.
Absolutely. Njabulo, I don't want to run out of time before I hear from you. Congratulations on being the runner-up for Mr. Ability. And you were diagnosed with cerebral palsy. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Fantastic. I mean, for you, what did it mean being a part of Mr. Ability and ultimately being crowned runner-up?
It means the world to me. It goes to show that as a person living with disability, your disability doesn't hold you back. You can achieve way more than you think you can.
In terms of dreams, we heard Yanga talking about that, you know, he still wants to teach. For you, what are the dreams? What are the future dreams?
The future dream is continuing to encourage and inspiring more people, because I believe we are, as the people that are currently disabled right now in this competition, we are not the last people. There are going to be people who are going to come after us. So it's up to us to show them the way so that they can achieve way more than we ever got the chance to.
Well, listen, congratulations. I hope you enjoy your year of reign as the runner-up for Mr. Ability. And Lana, we'll have to wrap it there for this afternoon, but Africa Cocoon is an organization that we journey with quite frequently on the show, so we look forward to seeing what else is going to roll out for the remainder of 2026. That was Lana Roy, Africa Cocoon's Disability and Inclusion Head, and of course Njabulo Vincent Mtembu, who is the runner-up for Mr. Ability 2026. Nancy, as we wrap up, I mean, we had a lingering conversation around, you know, the evolution of women. Perhaps your sound bites and your final thoughts in our last minute and a half.
Well, I would just like to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I just wanted to respond to what you were saying about the winners of that competition. You know, I had a friend who had cerebral palsy, and she actually managed to walk the New York Marathon. So, you know, disabilities, intellectual and physical, are obviously very, very different. But somehow, if you've got a support system, where there's a will, there's a way. So whatever your lack of ability is in whatever field, there's always a way. But your question to where women are in terms of the radio, I think a couple of years ago, radio, as you probably know, turned 100, and I wrote a piece called The Women's Share of the Air. And one of the things that I speculated on is that, you know, there's a pretty good balance of women radio hosts and men on most stations. But what's interesting is that very few women phone in, or far fewer women phone in. And back in the day, I mean, back in the days of the BBC, women weren't even allowed to be announcers. There was a gentleman who said, a news announcer needs to have authority, consistency, and reliability. Women may have one or two of these qualities, but not all three. So I think, and, coupled with that, very often it's been said that because of their higher frequency, women's voices on the air can be shrill, if not irritating. So once again, women are kind of on the back foot for all sorts of reasons. But in terms of whether or not there should ever have been a dedicated women's show, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think the times call for the content, and we are merely the vehicle that reflects the conversations that people want to have. Thank you so much for the time, Nancy. We have to leave it there for this afternoon. Hopefully, we'll see you in Cape Town one of these fabulous weeks. That was our co-host today, Nancy Richards. I chuckle when she reads that piece, gentlemen, reflecting on female broadcasters. Because many moons ago when I first started on radio, I remember being in one of my first closed room meetings with a whole host of radio DJs who were big hitters at the time. And this particular broadcaster, gentleman, he's still in sports today, looked over the room and said, well, it's like how women talk like Bridget with that high-pitched voice. So from time to time, I look at him and I go, 21 years later, and we're still here. He knows who he is. That is where we leave it today. We'll see you tomorrow. Have an incredible day. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again. And that was Udo Carroza.
Thank you, Bridget and the team on the top stories. Traditional leaders urged to remain neutral during elections.